was intrigued a little bit by what you had said earlier about biodiesel not necessarily being the answer, and it caught me by surprise. What I'm hearing is a supply and demand imbalance. There's a huge demand for biodiesel, yet the supply is just not there. Ethanol, from what I have studied and seen, is not the answer either. So what is the answer?
At least it's ethanol based on the corn, or biodiesel based on just one crop like the soy. So within the biodiesel or the ethanol industries, developing crops that aren't going to do a land grab for food, they're not going to use more resources. So the areas are cellulosic for ethanol and algae oil for biodiesel. To crack those code or to figure that out will definitely bring open new realms of possibilities. For right now, given the current state, with palm oil from virgin rainforest being cut down, being grown for that, that's just not a solution. Obviously, trucking in or shipping in from large distances is not really a solution. So solutions do go back to conservation, public transportation, and they're not as sexy as the new product or the thing that you can invest money into. Conservation's always been seen as the thing that's just less exciting or appealing, but that's where we can create more community, more time in our life, more, all of those other things. So ultimately, solutions, however, do exist for something like the school bus industry that is currently using diesel fuel to transport our most precious cargo, which is our future. And if they're dealing with asthma and cancer, at some point, due to the emissions that they're inhaling on the school bus, then if we could solve those kind of issues for them so that we can have our future generations grow in a healthy way, I say go for it.
It certainly makes sense, listeners, but at the same time I got to express a little frustration with the public transportation system, as I was over in Europe this past summer, and it was very nice to see that if I missed one subway train, my next one was in 2 minutes, not 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And certainly it has its problems, nothing's perfect, don't get me wrong on that, but the system over there is a lot more effective and certainly more widespread. So if we could get it together here, I think that would be kudos to us. I want to turn back to the biofuels for schools. Now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael's school bus system is switching to biodiesel. Is that correct?
Yes, and in the focus on, okay, we want to get this in school buses, where do we have to go? There's only probably a handful of school bus contractors that are in the Bay Area that we knew to identify. And Michael's was one of them that they tried a month of B5 or biodiesel at 5% blend into the diesel that they use about, I would say, 4 years ago when the prices were much higher. Unfortunately, schools' budgets got cut in the 80s for transportation fuel income, and so they're having to either decide is it books or buses, which is a tough decision to make when, of course, they want to put better fuel in, but now it's even more expensive. So Blue Sky Biofuels is really providing the fuel at a price that's equal to diesel prices that they're already paying for, which are growing up, to the school bus contractors like Michael's Transportation, West County Transportation Agency in Sonoma County, and soon we're looking at Durham and Laidlaw and some of the other larger contractors.
So there is potential. I mean, there is a wave of the future here that we're seeing where biodiesel will be used by the school buses, certainly have an impact, I would say, on the asthma rates among our children, but also there's a direct impact into the environment. Yes,
definitely. The reduction of particulate matter, which is the thing that causes the asthma, there's a reduction in the carbon dioxide, which is the global warming. There's been a lot of discrepancy around this nitrous oxide, but there's actually studies out that show that it does not change dramatically with a B20. So you take 20% biodiesel, 80% diesel, and you have a B20 blend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask in terms of the consumer, because certainly our listeners have heard about diesel cars and the fact that they can be converted. Tell us again, in your professional opinion, how easy is it to convert to biodiesel from a diesel car? How easy is it to get grease, if I might say?
Sure.
What is the process?
And those are two different prongs, just like the ethanol and biodiesel, when you can either convert the oil or you can convert the car. There's enough cars out there that have been converted, which actually, like I have a 2002 diesel Beetle, a new Beetle, and I just put biodiesel right into it. There's no modifications whatsoever. If you have an old enough diesel then you actually have to change the fuel lines, because those fuel lines and natural rubbers, biodiesel really degrade them. Okay. You also have to watch out that if you put biodiesel into an older car, it'll actually clean your car out like a big cleanse that your body's having from eating more green vegetables. So what will happen, is you can use biodiesel. You need to start blending it in slowly, changing out fuel lines. That's really the modification process.
Okay.
Or you convert the car, where you actually take a diesel engine, you add in a tank, you add in heaters, you add in lines, and you actually should probably go to a person that knows what they're doing mechanically to do this. And that you can find them out at Berkeley Biofuel Oasis. They actually have a really great connection to someone that does that conversion. Okay. So that's really the conversion, and then you can use straight vegetable oil in your diesel engine.
So it is, certainly there's time involved, there's money involved, but the benefit is definitely there.
Definitely. I mean, I really enjoy knowing that whatever I'm driving on is just either from a potato chip manufacturer, at least locally in the United States, or, at least growing in our fields. Yeah.
And of course, our listeners would ask miles per gallon, the all-important money question. What is the punchline on that?
Well, the crazier part is that there's all this fervor around Priuses. Mm-hmm. I get 40 miles per gallon in my Beetle already. Like, wow. No extra battery, no extra, bells and whistles and that. Diesel engines, because they're in our transportation fleet, because they last longer. Whereas gas engines go for around 200,000 miles. Diesel engines can get up to 500,000. So if you look at efficiency, they're not only higher. I had an 82 Vanagon, which is a little putt-putt thing. They got 26 miles per gallon.
Wow.
Which is, pretty good in terms of a big van.
Well, as Betty says, she's getting 40 miles per gallon in her diesel. I bought a hybrid, and we're averaging about 35, which is far below the EPA's stated 51. I'm a little wondering about the EPA, but that's a topic for another day.
It's a long topic.
That it is, Betty. As we reflect on what we've discussed over this time, we're hitting listeners across 9 Bay Area counties. What do you want them to do? How can they support the biodiesel movement? How can they get involved in alternative energy?
Well, my first, of course, is that they go to the Biofuels for Schools campaign website. And on that website, they can offset their own carbon emissions. They can learn more about the issues in our school buses. Obviously, most people that are listening would have either a kid that they know is in school, maybe riding a bus, or maybe kids that they know of other families that are in schools that are riding buses. So it's really to work in that realm. If they choose to want to buy their own diesel, they can buy biodiesel. You can go to biodiesel.org and search for different sites around the Bay Area. I definitely know the Biofuel Oasis in Berkeley is the one that's very clear. They have more opening hours. You can drive up there and get your biodiesel. If you're down in the South Bay, I know there's one going to be opening up in San Mateo, a pump pretty soon. So just to stay tuned to where those stations are, is really by going to biodiesel.org.
Betty, is this just a San Francisco phenomenon? Because it just occurred to me, if I fill up in Berkeley and then decide to take a trip, I don't know, to Anaheim, Disneyland again, for instance, is it spreading down into the Los Angeles area? Are there places, because certainly I can see where I would actually be out of gas, if I might use the old expression?
Yes, definitely. And in fact, a little tidbit on that, if you start using biodiesel, you need to keep using biodiesel, because the ultra-low sulfur diesel that we have in California, while it's good without the sulfur, it reduces lubricity. When you put biodiesel in, it increases lubricity. So you want to keep that lubricity in your engine so your seals don't have that increase and decrease effect. But you can go down to Los Angeles. There's a lot of places. Years ago, it was funny. It was like LA. It just wasn't happening. But now it's really happening. Co-ops have started, and then stations have gone in. So actually, just by going to biodiesel.org, there's an 800 number you can call for where these stations are located. Some are easier than others. Some you need cards to. So it's still, only for the tried and true that want to maybe put the 5-gallon jug of biodiesel in your car with you. But if you're getting good gas mileage, then you kind of know how long it's going to be.
Alrighty, final question for you. What really matters?
Keeping our kids healthy is what really matters.